We will conclude then with our team selections. Dan, I'll come to you first. I think given now that we know Alisson is fit, he'll be in goal, but there's a couple of questions I think to be answered along the back four. Are you going to stick or twist from Tuesday night?
I think I'm going to stick. I mean, as I said earlier, I would like to see Kabak and Davis tried as a pair. I think that was the whole point of, I think I'm not alone in feeling it would have been better if they'd done it at the start of January rather than the end of January, but we are where we are. We've got them in. There's still, a third of the season to go. But I don't feel a Merseyside derby against, an Everton who fancy their chances is the right time to throw them in. So, yeah, Kabak and Henderson continue at centre-back with Trent and Robbo in the full-back positions. In midfield, I absolutely agree 100% that Curtis Jones has to start. He has been one of the absolute shining lights of this very, very difficult season for Liverpool. And, what he did against the Blues in the FA Cup last season was one of the absolute highlights of, a season full of them, as far as I was concerned. It was a privilege to be in the ground that day. And I'm sure he'll be, for a local lad, he'll be. Don't think he started a derby before, has he? I'm not sure if he's even been a league derby rather. So I'm sure he'll be bursting at the seams to get involved in that. Thiago, I agree with what Lynchy said there. I think we're starting to see the signs of the player we thought we were getting. Obviously, he's had a very unfortunate start to his Liverpool career. He even put in a couple of decent tackles, I thought, on Tuesday night. There's been a lot said about his tackling, and some of it, I think it's fair to say, has left something to be desired. But particularly for a player that's played most of his career in Spain and Germany, it is going to take time to adjust to the pace of the English game. Maybe that's inevitable. So he continues for me, and then it's a question of Wijnaldum or Milner. And I'm going to plump for Gini Wijnaldum to continue. I always think Milner's a great first sub, whatever the state of the game, whether you're winning, losing, or drawing. You're always happy to introduce somebody like him.
I think James Milner might be injured, is he not, Dan?
He's still out with a hamstring injury, yeah. So he's not even. I think it's very much a team that sort of picks itself in that sense.
Of course, he went off injured early on at Leicester, didn't he, on Saturday? Yeah. Tried to block most of Saturday out of my mind in my defence. And the front three is the front three. Starting to show signs of getting back to the best. I mean, that the goal at Leicester was an absolute masterpiece, wasn't it? In all the wonderful football they've played over the last 3 or 4 years, we haven't seen too many things better than that. And it's a shame it'll be kind of forever lost to history to some degree because of what happened afterwards. But if those three can get to anything like the levels we know they're capable of, this season can still deliver an awful lot for Liverpool.
Still, I'll come to you next. I mean, the question for me really would be, can you afford to put Ben Davies into that defence? I think there is an argument for it when you consider how mobile the likes of Calvert-Lewin are. I think potentially someone like him, who, from what we've heard, is a more faster player across the ground. He's maybe one of those that might be able to sweep up a little bit better than Henderson or Ozan Kabak. Is there an argument at all for that, or would that almost be a little bit unfair on him to put him in a game this big?
Yeah, I think it would. I mean, I think he's got a big part to play between now and the end of the season. I just think maybe it'll come next. Just think it's just a massive risk, isn't it? Throwing someone in who spent a career on loan in Leagues 1 and 2, and then most of his career in the Championship, to step up to Liverpool and then be thrown into a Merseyside derby that's so important. So I think hang fire on Ben Davies for another week or so, and just leave Henderson in there because. And this doesn't really put a foot wrong at centre-back, has he? I mean, we'd all like to see him in midfield, but it's a similar situation to Fabinho where he's dependable enough. And I think Fabinho, to be fair, has probably been Liverpool's player of the season alongside Salah in terms of overcoming that obstacle of just adjusting to being a centre-back for the season. So I think that the big thing for Liverpool was not having him available. So I think Henderson's got to go in ahead of Ben Davies because the alternative is for Curtis Jones to play, which at the moment he's in great form. So I'm happy enough with that midfield three, and Liverpool for me will be unchanged. And as we say there, that's pretty much down to the fact that they haven't really got too many other options. I think the only other potential realistic option would be Curtis Jones for Oxlade-Chamberlain, but he hasn't really done enough for me this season, so I'm sticking with Jones.
Is there any case for you, David, in terms of Oxlade-Chamberlain? Obviously, Naby Keita, we don't expect to be able to start. If he can play a part, it's going to be off the bench, I would imagine. But there's not too many options for Jurgen Klopp to make. But is there maybe an argument for Chamberlain?
I think maybe last season at some point you would have said possibly you could have got him in. I think Klopp would have liked to put him in more last season than he did. But this time around seems to have, when this drop of form has happened, sort of they seem to lose a little bit of faith in him. Doesn't seem to particularly want to start him in games recently, which is a shame really, because we know when he's at his best, he's he can be a destructive force in that midfield in terms of coming forward, bursting from deep, and get, in a way that a lot of Liverpool's midfielders don't really do. A lot of the other ones, really, he's quite different like that. But maybe that makes him suited to sort of coming off the bench if you're looking for a goal late on. Maybe that's going to be his role. Just on Davis, I actually wonder with him where you make the case where he makes a start for Liverpool until the end of the season now. They've had so many problems with consistency at the back because of the injuries, obviously, and you're going to name an 18th centre-back partnership, aren't you, when Fabinho comes back, and you hope that he will then be the long-term partner to Kabak until the end of the season. But if the aim is to get that partnership going, then what games you ever give Ben Davis a debut in, really? It's sort of hard to see how he makes an impact before the end of the season, unless it's off the bench, and obviously you don't tend to use defenders in that way. So I think the key will be for Klopp is to keep things as consistent as possible. Get Kabak in there for another game. Obviously, you use Henderson there for now until Fabinho is back, and just try and get some consistency going. So might be a bit of a weird one till the end of the season for Ben Davis, I think. And I think in terms of the team for this weekend, you stick with the same 11 that beat Leipzig.
Yeah, full week, of course, before the next match, Sheffield United, I think, isn't it, next weekend? So no midweek game for once for Liverpool. Just before we finish then, we'll do some match predictions. I've not predicted a Liverpool win for a few weeks, it seems, but I am going to go for them on this occasion. I'm going to go for a 2-1. Gorsty, I'll come to you first on this one. Are you optimistic?
Yeah, I mean, not as much as it normally would be at Anfield against Everton. But yeah, I think Liverpool will win. I think it might just come down to Salah 1-0, and for extra good measure, it'll be from the penalty spot.
Excellent. I'd take that, certainly. Dan, what about you? How do you see it going?
3-2 to Liverpool.
Oh, a big game. Any comebacks, or how do you see that one panning out?
Well, I'm not. I just think there'll be goals. I think where Everton having a decent season, but they've had a bit of a sticky spell. They've shown some vulnerability themselves at the back. They're going to be without Yerry Mina, who's been a big presence for them this season. We picked up an injury in midweek. Obviously, we know about Liverpool's defensive frailties. And, watching them against Man City in the week, they did pretty well for now and caused City a few problems up front. So, I'd love to think Liverpool can keep a clean sheet, but I wouldn't be betting on it. But I'm going for Liverpool's desire to right, even if Jurgen Klopp won't say I will, to right the wrongs of last October at Goodison will come to the fore, and we'll edge it hopefully with a 97th minute offside handball dodgy goal that wasn't over the line.
Again, I'd certainly take it. David, how do you see it panning out?
Yeah, I think I can see Everton scoring. I think, again, a clean sheet up against Calvert-Lewin's going to be difficult. I think he's such a threat, really good player. So maybe Everton will get a goal, but I think Liverpool will be absolutely desperate to win this, fans or no fans in the ground. I think you maybe get a couple in 2-1 to Liverpool for me.
Yeah, certainly wins all round then for Liverpool today. That just about brings us to the end of today's podcast. We'll be back with the next Blood Red podcast on Monday, looking back at the Merseyside Derby, of course, and hopefully a Reds win. For now, though, from myself, Matt Addison, from Paul Gorst, from Dan Kay, and from David Lynch, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and until next time, it's goodbye for now.